What's up, co-counsels? I forgot. Hold on, I forgot to do something. I was trying to change the thumbnail, but it completely I just lost track. I forgot. I forgot. Give me a second. Give me a second. Let's go here. Let us go here. I don't know that I can change it right now though. Do I really want to change it right now? Probably not. Probably not. Give me a second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Just a second. I did not want to keep you guys waiting. So I showed up here. All right. I'm not going to change this background. That was the plan, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting. What's up, Benji? What's up, Brooklyn? What's up, Brooklyn? All right. So the verdict's out. It's a split verdict. I've been trying really, really hard to avoid um, the news, but it's just, unfortunately, I know what the verdict is. I actually just really found out right now because um, this morning my daughter had to go to the pediatrician, and as we were checking out, I happened to look at my phone. This was around 11. Was it 11:30? Cannot be 11:30. Maybe around 11:03 or something along those lines. I looked at my phone and they're like, jury has reached a verdict, not guilty on RICO. That's no. I think it just said reach a verdict. So I decided to avoid the media. And then I went to work. I was watching Judge McBurney. Shout out to Judge McBurney. And you know how the algorithm recommends random videos? So Tasha K popped up, and Tasha K was talking about how Diddy beat big government. So I still did not know exactly what the verdict was. And then randomly, I've told you guys before, as I'm working, Edge recommends articles. Like every time I open up a new tab, they recommend random articles. And this one said something along the lines of not guilty on RICO, convicted on 2 counts. I still did not know what he was actually convicted of up until now. Okay. But it's not, hold on. Let me find the actual, let me find, we're back at CNN. I think I need to close the CNN tab. Let's close the CNN tab and let's go to somebody else. We'll come back to, not, that's not it. That is not it. We'll come back to Diddy here in a little bit. I don't like the way they've been reporting. I don't like the way they've been reporting the Diddy news though, because I guess they give updates because there are no cameras in the courtroom. All right, so I'm just going to read some random article. No, let's go back to CNN. I'm sorry. I'm very chaotic. I'm very chaotic. So let's go back. We'll go to CNN. No, but I don't like the live updates though. Hold on. They're talking about Elon Musk and all these people. All right, let's go back. Let's go back. We're going to go back to this morning. Let's just scroll back. And there's somebody else. What's up, Allie? And Allie was, and that's the thing. You guys know I'm not a fake lawyer. All right. The one thing about me, I'm not a fake lawyer. Because yesterday, when news was revealed that the jury had reached a verdict on 4 counts, but they were still, there was an impasse as it related to the first count. Allie said that man is getting convicted on all 4. I said, I don't know what that means. Okay. I don't know what it means. The fact that they had reached a verdict on 4 counts, to me, it just wasn't clear. There was nothing clear. And again, I did not really watch the trial, with the exception of when I covered some of the news proceedings or some of the reports in the mornings, and that was over a month and a half ago. I've been in enough courtrooms where, unless I've watched the trial, you don't really know what anything means, right? But this verdict is not surprising because the some of the attorneys that were following this trial, they pretty much said that the trafficking, I believe, was obvious. And I said that in the beginning. The trafficking I understood, even without knowing much about the actual trial or not having watched the trial day to day. I could see how the prosecution could secure a conviction on trafficking. For everything else, I did not know because, again, I had not followed the trial. But I do remember watching coverage from Law and Crime, and it related to opening statements. There was an attorney on there. Again, I did not pay it much mind because in the beginning, I really was not following this Diddy stuff because it makes my stomach turn. Ali, there, I mean, it's nothing. We're all speculating, okay? It's all speculation. Um, when again, this attorney got on there and he basically said that the prosecution spent a lot of time explaining to the jurors um, explain to the jurors what a RICO is. And according to this attorney, because the prosecution spent a lot of time trying to connect the dots, it was problematic in the sense that they probably did not have anything or could not prove the RICO. Okay, that's where they were. And the other thing that I told you guys when we covered, I don't know, 2 3 weeks ago, I said, and I'd stopped myself, right? I'd stopped myself, but I suffer from verbal diarrhea. I suffer from verbal diarrhea, so I let it all out. I said that um, at least just based on my observations, not so much so to do with this administration because the Diddy trial did not start with the current administration. But I started noticing a trend whereby I was under the impression that the statistics, right? Because federal government is threatening for a criminal defendant because they usually have a high conviction rate. The reason why they have a high conviction rate is because they tend to nitpick. They tend to cherry pick. They tend to only select cases where they know they're going to get a sure conviction, right? And again, 2 3 weeks ago, I said that I'm noticing a trend where I believe that the conviction rate was going to fall because a lot of the cases that they were bringing, I'm not saying that the cases don't make sense, right? For example, the Diddy case, sure, states could not have picked up this case because of statute of limitations, and I suppose from a public policy perspective, um, the folks that pursued these charges believe that something had to be done, right? And the same, it's pretty much the same argument that I gave in the Karen Reed trial. Some folks thought it's a waste of taxpayer dollars, but from the perspective of victims or family members of the victims, it makes sense why the Commonwealth decided to pursue the charges. But I'm just saying that as far as some of the trends that I've been noticing in terms of the charges that they've been bringing against some criminal defendants, I kind of forecasted that the conviction rate would fall because I questioned whether they'd be able to, they being the Justice Department, I questioned whether the Justice Department would be able to sustain a lot of the convictions, right? And really, most of the cases that I had been following were cases that had more ties to the had ties to immigration. And as far as the criminal aspect is concerned, my focus was more so on the Abrego Garcia case out of Tennessee, not the Maryland case. But we're not going to get into that stuff, okay? Because Brooklyn's here. Brooklyn wants us to steer clear of politics, so we're not gonna get into that. But I did notice a trend where I questioned whether the Justice Department could sustain convictions on a lot of the criminal charges that they were bringing. So let's move on. Let us get into CNN. Okay. Dang, I wish today actually would have been the day to be in the criminal court. I I had things to do. I have things to do, but today would have been the day to be in court. All right, let's move on. And the only reason is because I would have wanted to see the reactions of how, just literally how everybody else was reacting. Okay, let's go back. So this is 7 hours ago. Seven. Ooh, baby oil. Apparently, baby oil was sprayed into the crowd outside the courthouse. Outside the courthouse. You cannot make this stuff up. Actually, you cannot make this stuff up. All right, let's go back because I want to go all the way back. There's Diddy's mother. There's the daughters. Okay, hold on. Reacted when the verdict. I have to go all the way back. We're like 8.5 hours ago. Cassie Ventura's lawyer after the verdict. I want the actual verdict. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of the day. All right. Okay, so this was 10 hours and 16 minutes ago. CNN reported just in. Combs found guilty of prostitution charges, but not guilty of most serious counts. So Sean Diddy Combs was found guilty by a federal jury on charges of transportation to engage in prostitution, but was acquitted of the most serious charges in a case. Actually, Ali, can I drop the link? Do you want to come up here, or do you want me to read a little bit and you can come up here? Let me know if you want me to drop the link. I'm just gonna drop the link. If you want to come up here, come up here. Benji's probably working. Brooklyn, I don't know. Brooklyn's computer doesn't work or something. So, okay, if you want to come up here, and then we can have a discussion. Where was I? Okay, so he was acquitted of the most serious charges. Okay, no problem, no pressure, no pressure. He was acquitted of the most serious charges in a case that featured salacious allegations that he coerced women into sexual encounters with other men, called sometimes other men, sometimes referred to as RICOs. Combs, 55, was charged with 5 counts: 1 count of racketeering conspiracy and 2 counts each of sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution. He was found not guilty of racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. He faces a sentence of up to 10 years. Jury reaches verdict in Sean Diddy Combs' trial. Okay. So I think that again, I've not followed the trial. I followed the trial to a point. Okay. I was not in the courtroom to a point where I could um, tell you whether the prosecution has sustained a conviction or not. But from the very beginning, when we read the indictment, again, my projection was they could potentially sustain a conviction on the lowest counts. As far as the RICO, I had no real opinion. I actually, let me think. I don't know of anybody in real life. I do not know of anybody that has successfully been convicted of a RICO. And I'm not talking about case law. Case law is different, right? Case law, I'm sure there's a reason why RICO exists. There are people that have, in fact, been convicted of that. But as an attorney, it's not something that I have seen in practice. Maybe that's going to change because, again, you guys know that recently I was admitted to federal court. So beginning next year, I will be taking on more federal cases. Uh, you know, through whatever the CJA panel, whatever thing that they have going on, unless of course Donald Trump cuts funding. If he cuts funding, then he cuts funding. Let's see. Brooklyn says the victim caught everybody by surprise. I would not think so. I don't know. Apparently, Brooklyn, don't go with absolutes. Brooklyn says nobody expected this outcome. What do you mean nobody expected this outcome? There are some legal scholars that said this could potentially be the verdict, right? assumed that would be the verdict, but again, I was not in the courtroom, so I did not know. Okay, let us move on. Let us move on. So, judge to jurors, the choice to speak about the case is up to you. Judge told the jurors that members of the press and others will likely try to speak with them about the case now. There is an important reason to respect the privacy of your deliberations, he said. That being said, the choice of whether to speak to others about the case and your personal views is up to you. He told them not to speak about other jurors' views or how the deliberations played out. Okay, that's fair. And that's one thing that I noticed yesterday as well. I said, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before. The Diddy trial had, I think they had 8 men and 4 women. To me, 8 men, it's more in line with just based on the allegations. I think having 8 men on a jury is more favorable to the defense. If he had all women, I don't know, that would be different. If the jury consisted of all women, I would be a little, I don't know, I'll be a little worried for Diddy. I would have been more worried for Diddy, but 8 men. Again, as far as the age range, it's really ranged. I think what made the ultimate difference as far as the jurors, a lot of them are highly educated. But as I was going through where some of these jurors were from, a lot of them were from Westchester County, right? So a lot of them were from the suburbs. Some people that could relate to a Diddy, and then maybe again, he had all these little kids in the courtroom. From the beginning, I said they need to parade those little girls in the courtroom. If they could bring Baby Love or whatever her name is, they should have put Baby Love right there front and center. Okay, the same way that Joe Takapina had the little ASAP babies out there in the gallery. Okay, all right. So let us move on. So the defense attorney says Combs should be released today. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo says that Sean Diddy Combs should be released on appropriate conditions in light of the fact that Combs has been acquitted on racketeering and sex trafficking. He says Combs would go back to his home, to his house in Miami and abide by conditions set by the court. Combs does not have access to his plane. Listen, a life of privilege, a life of privilege. So apparently he does not have access to his planes and his entire family is here, Agnifilo said. And any 3 of them, any 5 of them can sign onto a bond. Agnifilo wants him released today. The judge asked, is your proposal that he leave this courtroom and walk outside? Agnifilo said it is. So apparently they just wanted him to leave the courtroom. So the prosecution intends to seek incarceration. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey said the government opposes. I don't know, is she related to James Comey? It's unrelated. Let's move on. Said the government opposes the motion. She said the trial showed evidence of extensive abuse and prolific drug use that the defense did not contest. Diddy continued to commit a litany of crimes after he knew he was under investigation, she said. Comey argued that Combs does not respect the law and would likely commit new crimes if released. Comey also confirmed the government intends to seek a sentence of incarceration and that Combs still faces up to 20 years in prison for the 2 counts if he has been convicted of, or the 2 counts that he has been convicted of. And then around 10 hours ago, 10 hours and 10 minutes ago, the judge said that he'll make a decision on Combs' possible release after lawyers submit letters. Oh my goodness. So the judge asked the defense attorneys and the prosecutors to submit letters on their position about the possibility of releasing Diddy. The letters were due at 1 p.m. The judge would make a decision afterwards. So here's the thing. I don't usually react to other lawyers' content on here, but in a moment we are going to watch. What's the lawyer's name? It's Bruce something. I think that's his first name. The only reason, because yesterday after I left the live, his video was recommended to me, and the title of his video um leads me to believe that he thought that Diddy was getting convicted of everything. And I don't know that to be true because I did not actually watch the video. I've watched this attorney a few times, but it was way back in the day. You guys know I love King Von. Okay, I love King Von. And that is how his channel blew up. His channel blew up, it was a long time ago because I was still a public defender. So the way he started out his channel, or at least um how it, how I got wind of his channel, is because he would react to a lot of King Von videos. And this was around the time that King Von passed. So this would have been around 2019, because I think, not even I think, I know that King Von died in 2019 because my family, we had just landed in Pennsylvania. Okay, we're in Philadelphia, and I don't live in Philadelphia. That's why I can say that we landed in Philadelphia. We landed in Philadelphia. It was the day before the Electoral College was announced. And I remember this because Philly was fucking crazy. Like, it was just crazy. I mean, we're just visiting, but it was really crazy. And um, King Von died the day before the Electoral College was announced. So I just know it was really crazy out there. It was crazy. It was crazy in Philly. But that's around the time when this attorney's channel blew up. I think his name is Bruce. I want to say Bruce Willis, but it's Bruce something. Because I know the jingle. It's something Bruce something something is the criminal lawyer. Something. Anyways, we'll watch his channel. So Brooklyn, when you say, because I have another discussion, Brooklyn, when you say that nobody expected this outcome, are you saying that the attorneys that were covering this trial, they were all under the impression that Diddy would be convicted on all counts, or are you just saying the general public? Let us move on. Okay, so 10 hours, 5 minutes ago, Mr. Combs has been given his life by this jury, defense attorney says to judge. In discussing a motion to release Diddy from custody on Wednesday, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo told the judge that Diddy was looking at potentially spending the rest of his life in prison, but he was acquitted of those charges. That doesn't make sense. And I guess let us move on. So Mr. Combs has been given his life by this jury, he said. Agnifilo said Combs would be, oh, something else came to mind. Okay, let me complete this. No. Let's talk about this right now. What we're actually going to have to do is look at the sentencing guidelines, okay? Because for federal courts, I don't want to say that the judge's hands are often tied, but to some degree, the judge's hands are tied because their sentence, the sentencing has to be in line with the federal sentencing guidelines. So we're going to have to look at what the guidelines are for the transportation convictions. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna have to look at that. We're gonna have to look at that. So Agnifilo said that his client would be nothing short of a fool if he violated any conditions set by the court if he was released. He treasures, I assure you, the opportunity that he has been given, and he will not run afoul of anything that this court imposes on him. So while we're thinking about the release of Diddy, right? I'm considering, because obviously, just before I came up here, um, I believe I read, or the headline said that he will be detained, right? I saw somewhere $1 million bond, something along those lines. Uh, I mean, if he has that, why is he just not paying it though? We need to read. We need to read the rest of this stuff. We need to read the rest of this stuff. But going back to, I'm all over the place. Let's move on. Okay, so after the verdict, Combs faced the courtroom gallery. Oh, this is what I was trying to say, right? Going back to sentencing and the judge's decision to impose bond or bail or whatever it is that he imposed, we're going to read that. But I'm just thinking ahead, right? I'm trying to figure out if the judge's reasoning for either setting bond or not letting him out, if that has anything to do with criminal defendants in similar positions that are not celebrities, if they've been treated in a similar manner. If the judge was under the impression that him basically allowing Diddy to just walk out of the courtroom would be seen as him giving special treatment to Diddy. And here's the thing. Brooklyn says surprised that RICO didn't stick. I don't know what you're saying, Brooklyn. But here's the thing. You guys know that I watch a little bit of sports. I primarily watch the WNBA and women's college basketball, but I do follow other headlines. Like for example, what's the kid out of Colorado? Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter. So um I know a few weeks back, his father apparently has had some trouble with the law, right? That's the only reason why I'm bringing this up, as it relates to special treatment. So the father's attorney made an application before the judge in order to release him. I believe he was at the time on probation. I don't know that he's still on probation, but at the time, Travis Hunter's father was on probation. I believe this was around the time when he was getting married. He was getting married in Tennessee. The father is under probation conditions in Florida. Okay. So they had brought an application before the judge to basically loosen some of his conditions so he was able to attend the wedding. I believe it was the wedding, but I know for sure Tennessee, Florida. And they had put on some elaborate argument. The defense attorney did. They put on some elaborate argument for why the father or Travis Hunter's father should be released, or at least why his conditions should be loosened so he could attend this event. And the judge in that case pretty much argued that maybe I should have reported on this because I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting enough for me to read up on it. So the judge in that case argued that he could not comply with Alexa. Stop. Let me disconnect Alexa because I have a lot of reminders. I had no real plans of being up here tonight, but I had to be up because there's a verdict. In any event, the judge in that case reasoned that he could not comply with not that he could not comply. He's the judge. He can do whatever the hell it is he wants to do to a point. But he was saying that he was not going to grant the defense request in that case because it would have had the appearance as though he was granting Travis Hunter's father a special privilege because his son was recently drafted to the NFL. Okay, and I believe he further argued that it would be not necessarily that it would be improper, but he compared Travis Hunter's father to another criminal defendant who is in a similar position, but did not have the privilege of a son who was recently drafted to the NFL. So I'm just bringing this up in terms of in this Diddy trial, did the judge to an extent balance, what other defendants, similarly situated defendants, the manner in which they were treated as opposed to Diddy. All right. So Brooklyn says he was denied bail because when he surrendered last September in the Hyatt New York City hotel, they found everything that he was accused of in his hotel. And I mean, from a defense perspective, even without knowing how the proceedings transpired in court today. Literally, as I was reading about, I have verbal diarrhea, but I do, I do, I do caution myself sometimes. When I was reading the prosecutor Comey's words, I wondered, I'm like, I don't know. You released this guy, pink cocaine, pink cocaine. Brooklyn says guns with tampered serial numbers. Okay, let us move on. Let us move on. So after the verdict, Combs faced the courtroom gallery and clapped. Okay. So I don't know. Somebody needs to make a movie or something. Somebody needs a reenactment because I need to see this. All right. So before he was led out of a courtroom out by, I don't know. They have a lot of typos in these articles. But let's just keep going. Sean Diddy Combs knelt down in front of his chair and bowed his head like he was praying. When he stood up, Combs faced the gallery and clapped, prompting the gallery to clap and cheer. I don't know. This is different. This is different. Okay, so Jason says, Judge Mathis, is that Greg? Greg Mathis said he's facing 21 to 27 months on each count. I don't know. We're gonna have to shout out to Jason though. I'm gonna have to look at the sentencing guidelines myself. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna look at that for myself. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, apparently they were cheering. Combs faced his family, his face beaming. He said, "Thank you. Love you, mom. I love you. I love you. I love you." His family and friends erupted into applause. Some family members wiped tears from their eyes. After Combs left the courtroom, the family section started chanting Dream Team. I don't know about that. Again, a lot of these things I've not seen in real life because I just represent regular people. But apparently, they were chanting Dream Team to the lawyers who slapped each other on the back and embraced. Defense attorney Tanny Garagos, I thought he said that he was not an attorney in this case, but apparently he hugged members of the Combs family with tears rolling down. Oh, Tanny, sorry, I mistook her for her father. Okay, so Tanny, that's the daughter. Okay, with tears rolling down her cheeks. All right. And then Cassie Ventura's lawyer, this case proved that change is long overdue. All right. So Cassie Ventura paved the way for a jury to find Sean Diddy Combs guilty on some of the counts against him. Her lawyer, Doug Wigdor, said in a statement, I've never heard of this person. But here's the other thing, though. We've talked about this previously where I said Cassie is not exactly a she's not a sympathetic victim. Okay, she's not necessarily sympathetic in terms of she did have a lot of culpability in some of this conduct. And maybe to some extent, I'm sure there's a psychologist somewhere out there that's going to make an argument that she was in fact coerced, she was not freely in this relationship. But from a legal perspective, I did not see her as a sympathetic witness because she did bear some culpability in some of the conduct, as did the other people that surrounded Diddy. Um, so Brooklyn said Brian Steele had a very good year. Why do you say that? The only cases that I know of will be the Diddy case and then the Jackie Johnson, I believe that's her name, the previous prosecutor. But to my point, I still do not see the value that Brian Steele and what's her name, Nicole Westmoreland or Westmore. I think it's Westmoreland, one of the two. I still don't see the real value that they brought to the case because unless they did anything and everything else behind the scenes, all they did was cross-examine witnesses that, I don't know. I don't see the value they brought to the case, but let's move on. So apparently this entire criminal process started when our client, Cassie Ventura, had the courage to file her civil complaint in November 2023. I'm getting distracted. There's a really good decision. There we go. Nicole Westmoreland. Thank you, Brooklyn. There's a decision that came out today. I'm getting distracted. Let's move on. Yeah, now I'm going to be distracted because the name cannot come to mind. Okay, let's move on. So this is Cassie's lawyer. Okay, he says this entire criminal process started when our client Cassie Ventura had the courage to file her civil complaint in November 2023. Although the jury did not find Combs guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie beyond a reasonable doubt, she paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. He continued, okay, so the attorneys continued. By coming forward with her experience, Cassie was left in hold on, I'm getting distracted. Indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice. I'm going to have to get my glasses here in a little bit. So the attorney went on to say that Ventura had exemplary courage throughout this trial and brought attention to the realities of powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that has persisted for decades without repercussions. And that's what I've said. Listen, celebrity culture, there's a lot that I suppose goes on behind the scenes that the rest of us are not privy to there. And I mean, that goes for most people and most relationships, right? What you see surface level is not necessarily what's going on behind closed doors. And sometimes it's darker. Um, I guess Wendy Williams probably knew about all this Diddy stuff, but or at least I did not really pay attention to the Diddy stuff. Okay, so this case proved. That's just a quote from the attorney again. I'm not going to read that. Okay, so when will it end? Producer of Surviving R. Kelly questions lessons from Cohn's verdict. So Dream Hampton, executive producer of Surviving R. Kelly, said she wonders about the broader conversation that will follow Sean Diddy Combs' acquittal on the most serious charges in this case. Okay. My heart in this moment is going out to Cassie. I can't imagine what she's feeling. This was a woman who could have had a career, you know, and some of the testimony that she gave near the end about being 10 years into this relationship with Puff and still wanting to go to the studio, but feel like her job was to do the sex work. Hampton told CNN outside the courthouse. Hampton also expressed concern about what the ultimate takeaway will be now that Combs has been cleared of the most serious charges. And I'm afraid that with Puff walking from the more serious charges, that is not only him, the whole entire discourse. I just wonder what we're going to learn from this. I wonder when it will end. I wonder when we'll cease to look at women as disposable and as property. I wonder when these men will cease to tell themselves these stories. I mean, his defense. The closing arguments by his attorney was absurd. This was like a Bonnie and Clyde love affair. No, it wasn't. You are talking about someone who endured a decade of abuse, Hampton said. And again, I understand that. I said there might be a psychologist somewhere out there that can make out a case that the relationship was not what is this? I mean, definitely was abusive, right? But somebody out there could make a case that this was, in fact, sex trafficking. But from a legal perspective, Cassie is not necessarily, she is not really a sympathetic victim a criminal, from the perspective of criminal law and procedure. All right, so 9 hours, 6 minutes ago, how Combs reacted when the verdict was read. Diddy Combs was sitting with his hands clasped in his lap when the reading of the verdict began. When not guilty was announced for the racketeering conspiracy charge, he put his head in his hands. He did a subtle fist pump when not guilty was announced for the second of the two sex trafficking charges, the last of the most serious charges to be read. When a deputy polled the jurors about whether the verdict read in the court was correct, Combs craned his neck to look at them. After defense attorney Mark Agnifilo argued in favor of releasing Combs prior to sentencing, the judge asked, Mr. Combs, does not want to go back to the MDC, a reference to the New York City Metropolitan Detention Center. Combs vigorously nodded his head no and made a prayer hands. What's missing from this report, though? I want to know how he reacted guilty guilty conviction. And I mean, not that, or the guilty verdict, not that it really matters, because those are the lesser charges. All right, so let's go on. So 9 hours 42 minutes ago, happening now. Cassie Ventura's lawyer speaks to CNN. A lawyer for Cassie Ventura is sitting down with CNN. Earlier today, following the verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs, the lawyer released a statement describing how Ventura paved the way for Combs to be convicted on some of the counts against him by coming forward with their experience. Cassie has left an indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice, he said in the statement. And then 9 hours 3 minutes ago, Combs has won for all practical purposes with his verdict. That's what a legal analyst said. So Sean Diddy Combs has won this case and defeated the Southern District of New York, said Ellie Honig. I believe we referred to her. Yeah, I think we referred to some of her analysis. I think that was yesterday. Okay, so she is a CNN legal analyst and former assistant U.S. attorney for the same district. He has defeated the Southern District of New York, which I work there. They don't like losing in court. They don't lose in court a lot. And there's no way to spin this. This is a devastating setback for the district, Honig said. Combs was looking at the possibility of a 15-year mandatory minimum, potentially up to life, based on the more serious charges where the jury found not guilty. Now he's looking at a much lower sentence. And to that point, there is a realistic chance that the judge lets Combs walk out today or maybe tomorrow. It takes some time to post bail, Honig said. Okay, so this legal analyst that is obviously familiar with his judge and the court, she was of the opinion that Combs could walk out of the courtroom, okay? So NYPD presence grows outside. I'm going to have to find those videos. NYPD presence grows outside the courthouse after the Combs verdict, okay? So here's a picture of the mother as she's leaving the courtroom. So the New York Police Department's presence outside the courthouse has increased in the past hour following the verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, according to a CNN reporter at the scene. Combs was found guilty. Let's move on. Did they say guilty? Yeah. Apparently, let's move on. I'm not going to read the rest of that. So sex crimes deeply scar victims, U.S. attorney says after verdict. So Jay Clayton, the U.S. attorney for the New York Southern District, whose office prosecuted Sean Diddy Combs for the trial, and Ricky Patel, special agent in charge of Homeland Security investigations, New York field office, released this statement after the verdict. Sex crimes deeply scar victims, and the disturbing reality is that sex crimes are all too present in many aspects of our society. Victims endure gut-wrenching physical and mental abuse, leading to lasting trauma. New Yorkers and all Americans want this scourge stopped and perpetrators brought to justice. Prosecuting sex crimes requires brave victims to come forward and tell their harrowing stories. We and our law enforcement partners recognize the hardships victims endure and have prioritized a victim-centered approach to investigating and prosecuting these cases. Today, we recognize the important work, blah, 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 blah. They go on to thank law enforcement. And then let's see. Sean Combs stands before this court as a convicted felon of 2 crimes. That's what Cassie's lawyer is saying. We're not going to get into that because I'm not interested, okay? So Ventura's lawyer rejects calling her a winner after Combs' verdict, citing years of abuse. All right. Here's probably part of the most interesting part. Okay. So baby oil was sprayed into the crowd outside the courthouse. So some people gathered outside the courthouse after Diddy's verdict Hold on. Where was I? I'm getting distracted. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, don't laugh. Don't laugh. It's not funny. All right. So baby oil was sprayed into the crowd outside the courthouse. Some people gathered outside the courthouse after Diddy's verdict were seen spraying baby oil into the crowd. Remnants from the oil could be seen on the courthouse pavement. This is wild. So Combs' alleged use of baby oil during the freak-offs or drug-fueled sexual performances was brought up frequently during his trial. Wait, so did people actually go out and buy baby oil and then head to the courthouse, or maybe they already had baby oil? I don't know. So several of Combs' assistants testified that they stocked hotel rooms with baby oil before the freak-offs, and hotel records entered into evidence detailed the damages to rooms following Combs' stay and mentioned baby oil stains in the carpet. At one point, a defense attorney asked Cassie Ventura to confirm the baby oil they used during freak-offs was never laced with any drugs. Large amounts of baby oil were recovered during searches of Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles in March of 2024. According to an indictment at that time, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including drugs and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. That was at his home, according to the indictment. That's actually really wild. That's wild to me. All right, so Combs' sentence could be in the realm of time served. This is according to a CNN. Oh, how long has he been incarcerated? I actually did not consider that. So it's possible that Sean Diddy Combs, who has been held in federal custody since he was sentenced in September, could walk free today. That is according to Ellie Honig. Combs' defense attorney Mark Agnifilo told the judge that following this morning's verdict, where Combs was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, he should be released on appropriate conditions in light of the fact that Combs had been acquitted on racketeering and sex trafficking. Do not be surprised if at some point this afternoon we see Sean Combs walking out those doors right there, Honig said. If this was just some run of the mill unknown New Yorker who had only been convicted of what we call the Mann Act of non forcible interstate prostitution, he'd walk today. Because Sean Combs has been behind bars for nearly a year. The likely sentence that the judge may calculate, Honing said, is probably going to be something in the realm of time served. Honig added that with the most serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy being off the table, it wouldn't be all surprising if Combs walked out of the courthouse. Okay. So the judge was expected to make a decision, which he did. We'll get into that. So the complex nature of Combs' relationship is likely what the jury got hung up on. That's what the legal expert said. And that's what I said when we covered part of this trial. I don't remember, today's what, Wednesday? That must have been around Monday or maybe the week before. But I said that in order for, Diddy to walk, you needed somebody that understood the nature of his relationships. And that's what I said. You need some folks out there with money. Most people, let me not say most, but again, the Westchester County jury draw to me was interesting because that's more so the suburbs, and you need some real money to actually live out there. Okay. You need some real money to live in Westchester, even if it's White Plains, because I think White Plains is in Westchester. Let me double check. I think White Plains is. Let's see. White Plains, New York, New York County. New York County. Yeah, it is Westchester. Even for White Plains, those homes are really expensive. Okay, there's some expensive homes out there. But that was my sense. In order for Diddy to somewhat walk, he needed people that understood, I guess, the nature of that relationship and that power dynamic. You needed people to look beyond the surveillance footage. You needed people to look beyond the being slapped around and being dragged by your hair, being kicked, and things of that nature. All right. Okay, let's get back here. Uh, let's move on. I'm not gonna get into that. Okay, so 8 hours, 25 minutes ago, the judge was expected to decide on whether to release Diddy. We're not going to go into that. And then 6 hours, 13 minutes ago, Combs' conviction. Here's what these two counts alleged. Okay, I'm just going to go over these for the sake of going over them. Because after this, I'm not touching this Diddy stuff again. So while the jury acquitted Diddy of the most serious charges, it found him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, each carrying a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. A closer look at his conviction. The two transportation charges accused Diddy of transporting his then girlfriends, Cassie Ventura and Jane, as well as male escorts, across state lines for the purposes of prostitution. This was very clear. These allegations, very clear. So, and I suppose the difference with these charges or the 2 counts that he was convicted of, there's no element of coercion, right? It's just that he's moving people about. Okay, so Benji's at work. Shout out to Benji. All right, get that money, Benji. Okay, so one charge related to Ventura, with whom Combs dated from around 2007 to 2018. The other involved Jane, who testified under a pseudonym and dated Combs from 2021 to 2024. So I suppose he dates multiple people at the same time, because wasn't he with the city girl? I don't know. So Jane now that I think about it, did she have to participate in the freak-offs as well, or did she have special privileges? I don't know. So Jane testified that she and Combs had hotel nights between May 2021 and October 2023 in a variety of locales, including Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Turks and Caicos. Dang, they'll be flying people out there. Similarly, Ventura said freak-offs took place in some of those locations, as well as other cities such as Atlanta and Las Vegas. Ventura testified some escorts participated in freak-offs in multiple states. They were paid between $1,500 and $6,000 afterwards in cash provided by Combs, she said. Her testimony was bolstered by various records presented in court, including flight records, American Express charges, and hotel invoices. The jury also watched video footage of Ventura and Jane engaging in sexual acts with male escorts. The videos line up with the dates of many flight records and hotel invoices. The prosecution said, dang, I would hate to be on this jury. I don't know. Let's move on. So the fans argued there wasn't sufficient evidence that the escorts and entertainers were paid for prostitution as opposed to for their time. What a legal analyst said last week, trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Maris with an M, not an H, said this was about the two transportation charges. That has been proven by leaps and bounds by prosecutors. It's truly very simple. Did individuals cross state lines with the intent to engage in prostitution? Maris said about the transportation counts. Yeah, those were definitely those 2 counts clear as daylight, because you're just crossing state lines. It's not a thing about, oh, he dragged me by my hair, he did X, Y, and Z. No, it's just straight, state to state. All right. So Cassie Ventura's friend penned a letter to judge expressing grave concern about Combs' potential release. Okay. So prosecutors' letter detailing why they opposed the release of Sean Diddy Combs while he awaits sentencing includes a note from Deontay Nash, a stylist and a friend of Cassie Ventura who testified during Combs' trial. In his letter, Nash addressed the judge and expressed great concern about Combs' potential release. I suppose the people that testified against Diddy, I'm not saying that they have anything to worry about, but I'd understand why they'd be concerned. So while I appreciate the fairness you have shown throughout this process, I feel compelled to be, what is this, to be unequivocal about the danger he poses to the public and to the individuals who have risked everything by coming forward, Nash wrote. He continued, Mr. Combs has a long, well documented history of violence, coercive, and retaliatory behavior. Dang, Capricorn Clock was worried then. She should, I suppose, maybe she's worried now. I don't know. I don't know. Over the years, he has repeatedly escaped meaningful accountability, and each time this has only reinforced his sense of impunity. If he is released now, I have no doubt he will see it as yet another license to continue intimidating, threatening, and harming people who challenge or expose him. Um, Again, I suppose this individual, Mr. Nash, has reasons to be concerned because he is a celebrity hairstyle. Is it just stylist or hairstylist? I don't know, one of the two. Okay, I can no longer see. So again, it probably depends on how much pull and control and money. I mean, Diddy, I think he still has money, right? But as far as influence, would he be in a position where he can influence the folks that used to hire this man, or exactly how are things going to play out? We don't know. I guess we'll find out, or maybe we don't. um, Let us move on. So during his testimony, Nash testified that on multiple occasions he saw Combs assault Ventura and heard him threaten to withhold her music or release sex tapes of her. All right. And then, okay, 7 hours, 22 minutes ago, Combs' defense asked for release on a million bond. Okay, so that's where I got the $1 million from. The $1 million, that's because that's what the defense attorneys were asking for. Okay, so Diddy's defense team has submitted to the judge its letter asking that Combs be released while awaiting sentencing and proposing circumstances under which Combs would be released. The letter proposes $1 million bond co-signed by Combs, his mother, sister, and the mother of his eldest daughter. I don't know who that is. Combs' travel be restricted to parts of Florida, California, New York, and New Jersey. Combs has homes in Florida and California, and the letter to states would cover visits with attorneys and attendance in court. The surrender of Combs' passport, drug testing by pretrial services, all other standard conditions of pretrial supervision. That would include not drinking alcohol either. Okay, so the letter argues that since Combs faces a lighter sentence, then he would have, if he had been convicted of the more serious counts, he should be released with conditions. The charges he was convicted of, 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, involved 2 separate victims, but even still, his team argues that under the U.S. sentencing guidelines, which are advisory, this results in an expected guideline range of 21 to 27 months. So, okay, so I know previously Jason said that Judge Mathis said facing 21 to 27 months. I wanted to look up the guidelines myself, but the defense attorneys have gone on to say, he's looking at 21 months to 27 months. So Mr. Combs has already been incarcerated for 10 months, okay? His sentencing exposure, which we fully respect and do not seek to minimize in any way, is in fact low, and so is any corresponding risk of flight, the letter reads, all right? And then there was a bail hearing set for 5 p.m. I was probably just leaving work then. So, okay, a bail hearing is scheduled for 5 p.m. According to the district executive's office, Combs' lawyers have asked that the music mogul be released as he awaits sentencing. Combs was found guilty. Oh, they're just repeating, okay? Prosecutors opposed Combs' potential release. And then 7 hours, 19 minutes ago, Cassie Ventura believes Combs poses a danger to the victims who testified, her lawyer tells the judge. So Cassie Ventura's lawyer just submitted a letter to the judge to deny the defense request that Diddy be released from custody while he awaits his sentencing. Okay. Ms. Ventura believes that Mr. Combs is likely to pose a danger to the victims who testified in his case involving herself as well as the community. All right. And then let's go back. They have some pictures of Diddy here or some sketches. Okay. He was on his knees and everything. All right. So courtroom sketches capture the moment Sean Diddy Combs heard the verdict. Okay, I see some of the reactions of the children. They appeared surprised. Okay. Or maybe they're elated. I don't know. So 5 hours, 45 minutes ago, legal analyst breaks down the verdict. The jury did not find there was enough evidence to prove these crimes. I'm not going to read that because we know that. 4 hours, 33. Dang, it was packed outside. The scene outside the courtroom is a spectacle and a circus. So that's according to chief legal analyst. While the judge required a quorum inside the courtroom following Diddy's verdict reading, the scene outside looks a little different, according to CNN. Spectacle, circus, show, all words that come to mind. Coates, who's outside the courthouse, blah, 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 blah. He told CNN that some people are outside with true, apparently people are celebrating, okay? The people in the spirit. And others were expressing discontentment. There was shouting matches at times. It just sounds chaotic. It sounds chaotic. I see why there was an increased police presence. Okay? The bail hearing was expected to begin. We're going to skip over that. Okay, the family is arriving at court ahead of the bail hearing. Skip over that. Okay, victim's rights attorney expresses concern about Combs potentially being released on bail. So Gloria Allred, who is a victim rights attorney, told CNN she's concerned that Diddy may be released on bail. Okay, I'm very concerned about Mr. Combs being released on bail, which is a possibility, Allred said, adding that she's sure the judge will his very best. That's what I'm saying. There are a lot of typos in this article, but let's move on. His very best to consider all the guidelines, factors for sentencing. Allred noted that there are others who are concerned about the potential release of Diddy aside from those who testified in his trial. Some of them were willing to testify if, in any fact, they were called. Some of them, in fact, were on the witness list. Some were, which was turned over to Diddy's attorneys, but have not been released to the public. So this attorney or the victim's rights advocate or attorney is always concerned for victims or accusers of people who perceive their victims. They overcame a lot of fear just to speak to law enforcement and tell the truth. And they're very much afraid. So that's what this individual is saying, or this attorney is saying. Okay, so 4 hours, 17 minutes ago, the judge denied bail for Sean Diddy Combs. Okay, bail was denied. 4 hours, 9 minutes ago, Combs has demonstrated a disregard for the rule of law and a propensity of violence. Okay. The judge said he denied bail for Diddy. I mean, they even misspelled the man's name. Instead of Sean, they said Sen. I guess they're just trying to get this information out. So, in any event, the judge denied bail for Diddy when it wasn't mandatory before the trial and sees no reason to reach the opposite conclusion now. The judge is now quoting the defense at different instances when Combs' lawyers acknowledge his violence towards his former girlfriends. They're using his lawyer's words against him. At trial, the defense concede, this is no bueno. And this is why I had concerns about the approach that the defense attorneys took. I mean, obviously it worked out in their favor, but I'm always skeptical about defense attorneys that concede to the prosecution's allegations. And we're seeing, I guess, we're seeing an instance where that's not really working out for the defendant in this case. So the judge basically said that at trial, the defense conceded defendant's violence in personal relationships, saying it happened in relationships to Cassie Ventura and Jane. The judge said there was also violence and illegal conduct after the searches on Combs' homes when he was aware he was under investigation. This highlights a disregard for the rule of law and a propensity of violence. Well, I don't know what this means for the future, um, but this is what the judge, that's the judge's decision, okay? So the judge proposed a sentencing on October 3rd. The judge has proposed a sentencing date of October 3rd at 10 a.m. I'm probably not going to remember, but okay. But said he's willing to move up the sentencing date at the defense request. Defense attorney Agnifilo said they would like to expedite the sentencing schedule as much as possible. He said the defense is willing to waive a pre-sentencing investigation to expedite sentencing if the judge is open to it. All right. Prosecutor, the court doesn't have enough information to skip pre-sentencing investigation. And I was just about to start talking about pre-sentencing investigation because we talked a little bit about um, pre-sentencing investigation in the Brian Kohlberger case, right? Again, I have not, those are murder charges. I have never seen a pre-sentencing investigation waived or not ordered for a murder conviction. So for the Diddy charges, let's find out how the court ruled. Okay, so prosecutor Maureen Comey said given the complexity of the trial and the disparity between the parties' positions on the sentencing guidelines range, she doesn't believe the court had enough information to sentence Diddy without a pre-sentencing investigation. Comey said the government is willing to work with the defense to move the process forward as quickly as possible. And then Agnifilo, who had suggested waiving the pre-sentencing investigation in order to expedite the sentencing, schedule, said the defense believes it has strong arguments to make on Combs' parenting. One moment. Parenting. All right. So, where was I? So, the defense attorney said the defense believes it has strong arguments to make on Combs' behalf for a sentence below the guidelines. All right. Let us move on. A judge to defense attorney. Wow. Okay. So this is okay. This is 3 hours and 52 minutes ago. The judge to the defense attorney. You full throatedly told the jury that there was violence. All right. So the judge was addressing the defense attorney. And the judge goes on to say that you full throatedly, in your closing argument, told the jury that there was violence here. And domestic violence is violent. And you said this is a case that did involve violence. So that's what the judge is saying to the defense attorney. Agnifilo responded that there's only been evidence of one instance of violence since 2018, a June 2024 altercation with Jane. Agnifilo said Combs also entered a batterous program after the Intercontinental Hotel surveillance footage was released in 2024. Jane helped Combs write the letter to get into the program, Agnifilo said. He is a man in the process of working on himself. And again, I've said this before. I'm not a fan of defense attorneys conceding to the prosecution's allegations, because here we're seeing how that's um, coming back to bite Diddy in the butt. Okay, so 3 hours, 50 minutes ago, Combs wants to speak with the judge, defense attorney says. So the defense attorney, Agnifilo, told the judge that Combs would like to speak with him. Okay, Mr. Combs wants to talk to you, Agnifilo said, telling the court that he'll see what Combs wants to say. So I suppose they had a sidebar, and I guess during the sidebar, this is me speculating, okay? During the sidebar, he probably said, "Judge, let me out of let me out of jail today. I'm not gonna do anything else again." So 3 hours, 49 minutes ago, Prosecutor Combs is an extremely violent man with an extraordinarily dangerous temper. Comey, hold on. Prosecutor Maureen Comey says the judge is correct in his decision to keep um, Diddy in detention, calling him an extremely violent man with a danger temper. Yeah, they have a lot of typos in this article, but it's their article, not mine, and I'm very grateful to be able to read it. Okay, what's exceptional about Combs? Comey said is his wealth, his violence, and his brazenness. I mean, he was based on the allegations, or at least based on the testimony, he was definitely very brazen in you know in how he went about things and how he handled himself. He's an extremely violent man with an. I just read that. Why are they repeating this? Let's read it. He's an extremely violent man with an extraordinarily dangerous temper who has shown no remorse and no regret for his multiple victims. Ah, that makes a difference. Remorse. So Agnifilo appealed to the judge one more time, saying, in part, listening to Miss Comey makes me appreciate that we have juries. Ooh, shots fired. Shots fired. So judge confirms a bail is denied and sets hearing on sentencing schedule for next week. Ah, okay. So he scheduled a remote hearing for next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time to address the sentencing scheduling. The judge is off the bench and the court is done for the day. That was 3 hours, 49 minutes ago. So how Combs reacted when judge denied bail? They have a sketch of him here looking very surprised. When the judge denied bail, Sean Diddy Combs' mouth dropped and his eyes widened. Okay. I guess I don't know. I hope his attorneys did not tell him that he was going to walk out of court. Okay, so let's see. Did I unmute my mic? I think I did. I think I did. Okay, so letter detailing Ventura's feelings may have had effect on the judge's bail decision. That's according to a legal analyst. Attorney for Don Rashad calls verdict a disappointment. No, we're not really. Do you want to read? Oh, Lisa Bloom is actually representing her. That's interesting. We're gonna skip over that because it's almost 10, and I want us to go to the attorney Bruce something. I think his name is Bruce something. I'll find it. I'm just gonna say lawyer Diddy Bruce. So that should bring something up. Okay, so he'll get his life back. That's what Combs' attorneys were telling his supporters. I suppose this was outside the courtroom. So after the judge left the bench, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo turned to Sean Diddy Combs' supporters. He told them United States District Court for the Southern District of New York never loses racketeering cases. He told them that Combs showed up and he wasn't afraid. He'll get his life back, Agnifilo said. Winning is winning. You live your life and you live a good life, okay? So again, I said as far as in real life, I've read about people being convicted. I've not seen it in real life, but I guess I've not seen it because I've also not. I don't know if I don't know personally of anybody that was charged with racketeering, with the exception of these people that we've been covering here. So Combs tells his family, "I love you all. Be strong." So following his bail hearing, Sean Diddy Combs faced his family and told them, "We're going to make it through this. I'll see you when I get out," he added. "I'll see you." Na, na, na. All right, let's move on. So Combs blew kisses to the two rows. In the courtroom filled with his family and friends. I love you all, he said. Be strong. Just before being led out of the courtroom and back into detention, he said, I love you, Mom. All right. 2 hours, 49 minutes ago, defense attorney calls Combs' verdict a great victory. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo called today's verdict in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs a great victory outside of the courthouse in New York City. It is a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. All right. And then an hour, 30 minutes ago, defense attorney touts the jury for getting the situation right enough. Agnifilo said one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. The jury acquitted Combs on the sex trafficking charge and racketeering conspiracy. He added calling Combs innocent. All right. So we move on. And then an hour, 30 minutes ago, Combs' attorney maintains he did not sexually assault anybody. All right. So this is according to Tanny. I'm not going to get into that stuff. Then they have more updates. Let's see. Are those the updates? Oh, that's an hour, 30 minutes ago. Those were the latest update. So let me find the video that, are we there? Let's get on YouTube. Again, I just want a different perspective. Dang, Lori was interviewed on Monday. That's what we're supposed to talk about on Monday. I completely forgot about that. Lori was interviewed on Monday. I'm actually interested in seeing that interview. Come on, share. Am I sharing? Okay. So the attorney's name is Bruce something. I'm just going to say lawyer Bruce Diddy. I don't know where that's going to take us, but it should take us somewhere. There we go. Him. Yeah. Oh,
hi, this is Bruce Rivers.
Bruce Rivers. I called him Bruce Willis. And when this was recommended to me, I believe he had about 500,000 views. But let's get into Mr. Bruce Rivers. Let's look at the comments. Let's look at the comments a little bit. All right, let's watch this.
This just in, we just got done filming a Diddy video about the jurors and the questions, and
smacking. I think I smack a lot when when I'm talking.
Where you can see what their mind is. And as we were filming it, we got the news that the jurors have come to a decision on 4 of the 5 counts. Okay. Now, keep in mind, there's the racketeering count, and there's 2 sex trafficking counts, and 2 transportation for prostitution across state lines counts. Okay. The sex trafficking counts are like 15 years. So even if they acquit on the RICO, if they find him guilty on any one of the other offenses, it could be 10 or 15 years.
So 4 days ago, he said that Diddy is going to prison. So I don't know, Bruce. Let's see what you have. Again, for Bruce, the videos that I have primarily watched on his channel, and that was years ago, were his reactions. I don't really want to say that he was breaking down King Von's lyrics. I would not call it that. But I suppose that's what one could argue. Parenting, hold on.
There's a 15-year mandatory minimum on the sex trafficking charges. But we don't know. So what happened this afternoon is we got news that the jurors have made a decision on 4 of the 5 counts that they are deadlocked on the RICO count. When you look at the rest of this video and you hear the questions that they've asked, keep those in mind when you analyze all the news coverage that you're going to get between now and tomorrow. My guess is we're going to get a verdict tomorrow. So what happened was the jurors came back with the note saying, they've made a decision on 4 of the 5 counts, but they're deadlocked on this other one. In other words, we have unpersuadable minds on both sides of the aisle. So some people think he's guilty. Some people think he's not. It could be 11-1. We don't know. It could be 6-6. Could be 10-2. Could be 11-1 for not guilty. I don't know. But so what the judge did was brought everybody back into the courtroom, and he gave them what's called an Allen charge, basically. Like go back and deliberate.
Let's skip into some stuff.
Easy guilty. I mean, it really wasn't controversial
Wait,
at all.
what?
I mean, when you look at or Brian Steele or any of the defense, we just don't know. If you're Sean P. Diddler Combs,
Dang, he called that man the diddler. I'm sorry.
guess what you're doing? You're going like this. Your heart is fucking pounding. If you're Agnifilo or Brian Steele or any of the defense counsel, your heart is pounding through your chest. You don't know what they're thinking. You just don't. It is really interesting when you look at the questions, because they talked about distribution, right? And they wanted to know if somebody's asking for some drugs, is that distribution? That's really direct.
When we went over the indictment yesterday, the distribution related to the RICO.
Directly related to the RICO case. I don't know what to make of that. It seems to me the prostitution across state lines is a pretty easy guilty. I mean, it really wasn't controversial at all. And the sex trafficking, if somebody's out unconscious, that's coercion, force, fraud, or coercion. That's what they have to prove. So I don't know. I'm my head's kind of spinning because we're all watching the coverage. So watch the rest of this video, as brought to you by AskALawyer.com, and watch the rest of this video and see what you think, and make some comments. And Robert and Nick
All right,
will
come on.
white popcorn and watch. I'm this. Of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. Oh, genius update. It's due. This is in a basement to get lawyer and so oil. You know, I still can't get over all the fucking oil and all the damage that they did to these hotel rooms. I mean, what's wrong with it? Man on top, get it over with quick. Let's have a snack. You know, I mean, you have to be a freaky to be a freak. Anyway, maybe I'm just too vanilla for you guys. Anyway, so remember what I told you? I told you.
There's a lot of cuts, so maybe he was just going off and saying things they shouldn't say on camera.
To look at what the jurors' questions are when they send something to the judge, because they can ask questions of the judge. So today is Tuesday, so it's the second day of deliberation. They started yesterday. Within 70 minutes, they had a question for the judge, and it was, can we do something about this other juror who doesn't want to follow your directions? Here's the thing. The jurors have to follow the instructions that the judge gives them. So the jurors sent a note saying that they were concerned that one of the jurors could...
I'm impatient.
And I'm
really impatient. I cannot do this. Let's maybe get to the very end.
Tried a case or not. Drawing on... We live in a world where anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason.
Yeah, I know what that's about. So let's move on. Let us move on. I wanted to do Brian Koberger tomorrow. I don't know that I'll be up here tomorrow because Wednesdays are usually my days off. So yeah, tomorrow I'm just gonna take the day off because I need to plan out my daughter's summer vacation, and I need to budget and write everything out and see it on paper. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. We're gonna reconvene on Tuesday, absent something out of the ordinary really just happening. I don't know what could oh, actually there's a new trial. When I tuned in, I don't know.
I would ask the state at this time to provide.
I think it was one of these law and crimes. Some suburban woman is on trial for trying to off the husband. Was it law and crime trials, I think. Live. And there she is. Yeah. So let's see, Karina. Let's look her up. I've not heard of this person before. What state is this? Karina Cooper. All right, let's see. Let's see. I don't know. There are a lot of people with this name apparently in Iowa. All right, they're just recommending YouTube. I don't want YouTube. Hold on. Oh, here's some interesting stuff. This might be a trial that we follow. Actually, this might be a trial that we follow. This is what they're reporting. When was this reported? July 2nd. Is that today? I think that's today. So, July 2nd, witness testifies Iowa woman was on top of husband's dead body after he was shot in the face. So, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a first degree murder trial started Wednesday for the Trier woman accused of killing her husband. She allegedly planned the murder alongside the man. Oh my goodness. Here's another one. She planned the murder alongside the man she was allegedly having an affair with. And she was found sitting on the husband's body after he was shot. Ryan Cooper was shot in the face and found dead in his recliner. Okay, recline. Oh, close out of that. Is this a paywall? Okay. His recliner in June 2021. His wife Karina was arrested and charged in early 24. Okay, so it took some time. That leads me to believe something happened in between that led law enforcement to Karina. So Karina's trial started with opening statements and initial witness testimony in Lynn County Court after being moved out of Tama County. Okay, so there was a change of venue here. Leads me to believe there were issues about an impartial jury. Jury selection took the entirety of Tuesday. Houston Danker is also charged with first degree murder in Ryan's death. Prosecutors say Karina was having an affair with Danker, and they'd been messaging on Snapchat to plot her husband's murder. Okay. So during opening statements, is she crying or is she laughing? There's a video that popped up. I don't even know if this is her. During opening statements, the state claimed that messages between Karina and Danker said they wanted to get married and have children together. And she said she wished her husband would die in an accident. Assistant Attorney General said, is that what they call their prosecutors in Iowa? I guess so. Said while Karina claimed she was asleep with Ryan, or claimed she was asleep when Ryan was shot, snapshot messages were sent shortly before she called 911. He also said Danker's cell phone data. Why does this keep jumping? Hold on. He also said that Danker's cell phone data showed his location driving back and forth from his home to Ryan's home. Oh my goodness. Ugh, all right. I don't even know much about this trial, but I can already see where it's going. Um, okay. And Danker had sent Karina a message saying not to forget to clean up the bullet casings. The evidence you will see will show that Karina Cooper was not just an unfaithful wife. The evidence will show you that she was not just dishonest, but that she is a co-conspirator. That's what the prosecution told the jury. You'll see that she's a planner. The evidence will show that she's a murderer. Ooh, okay. However, Karina's defense argues that Danker had made her believe in a dream world and it became real and too deep. Attorney Nicole Watt said Karina did not want to kill her husband and did not want his insurance money. I don't like this line of defense. I also figured insurance money might be involved here, but I was not going to get to it. I don't like this defense. I don't like this defense. Let's read that again. So, attorney Nicole Watt said Karina did not want to kill her husband. So they're saying she killed the husband, but she didn't want to kill the husband and did not want his insurance money. So she got insurance money, and that funding is currently in trust for her children. Houston Danker killed Ryan Cooper. Houston Danker shot Ryan Cooper in the face. This is a good defense. Houston Danker solicited, I don't like that part, Karina. Houston Danker manipulated Karina, unless they're arguing that she is not in fact the mastermind, and they're hoping that she gets convicted of a lesser charge. Then I don't get this or at least this opening statement. Let's move on. So Ryan's brother, Aaron Cooper, was one of the first people on scene after he said Karina called him screaming and crying. He arrived at the home and saw Karina sitting on Ryan's body. He felt he felt Ryan's leg and it was cold, and he said there was some dried blood on his face and ears. Okay, sounds like some time had lapsed. So a county sheriff's deputy said while everyone responded to traumatic situations differently, he's never seen anyone react the way that Karina did. How did she react? He said it was difficult to figure out what had happened. This deputy goes on to say that I've never seen someone's emotional state almost completely inhibit them from providing pertinent information to law enforcement. Okay. Karina and Ryan Cooper's son, identified as CC, testified without being on video or audio recording since he's a minor. The teen testified that he normally would sleep in the living room on the couch next to his dad's recliner, but his mom had asked him to stop sleeping downstairs days before the murder. Okay, show some planning. The boy said he knew Houston Danker since he'd come over to talk with his mom on the patio, and he would see texts from Danker to his mom. One time, the teen said his parents got into an argument, possibly about Danker, and he was worried they would get a divorce. I mean, just get a damn divorce, okay? The day his dad was killed, Cece said, I wonder how old Cece is. Cece said he heard his mom screaming and came downstairs when he saw Karina running back and forth from the living room to the bedroom. At some point during her a 911 call, oh, it's a teenager. The teen said his mom handed him the phone. Testimony continues on Thursday. It's tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow's Thursday. All right. So that so far, what I'm hearing, I don't know. I don't know, Karina. I don't know, Karina. But again, this is potentially a good trial to follow because it is in its infancy. What else do they have on here? Oh no, here. Because I tried to follow this trial, and this trial is just I cannot do I cannot do this preppy trial. I can't do it. It's all over the map. But I did read on, I believe it was on Reddit, because he took the stand. I watched a little bit of him on the stand. I watched like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then I moved on to Judge McBurney. The people on Reddit thought that he was testifying well. I mean, he did sob and cry a lot on the witness stand, but I'm gonna say what I'm thinking. Not necessarily in the lines of an affluenza defense, but I do have my thoughts about the verdict in this case. I'll let them. Oh, it's only day 10. I'll let them conclude and then I'll say what my thoughts are. But my thoughts are more along racial lines. All right, folks, so let us call it a night. I don't see anything else in the Diddy trial. That is the Diddy trial. Uh, Again, I don't like plea dealing. This does not mean that everybody gets a favorable outcome, but sometimes you do have to take it to trial. Okay, you have to take it to trial. Again, if you don't have, I don't know, I guess somebody somewhere is having a freak off right now. Okay, squirting baby oil and everything else. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let us reconvene on Tuesday. Yeah, let's reconvene on Tuesday. I'm gonna start watching this Karina trial. Yeah, I'm gonna get into this Karina trial because it looks like it's getting somewhere. I think I think this trial is gonna go somewhere. I'll watch this Karina trial, and then Dang, they have black people in Iowa? Let's see. No, they have terrible audio. I don't know that I can watch. They have terrible audio. I can't do that. No, that audio. I I don't know that I can. Somebody said not only the there's a microphone at the podium at work, they walk away from it. Just around where the bullet went. I don't know. It's going to be frustrating. Oh, something's going on. They have surveillance. I'm getting distracted. I really need to go.
No, we had Aaron go ask her if she knew the passcode or anything, and
Oh, there's a
Aaron came
passcode.
back and told us that he hadn't been able to get any information.
Oh, I need to
from
watch
her
this
or
whole
anything like
thing.
that.
Okay, I saw something though.
Is this a safe that you had ever seen before or had any access to? No.
Wait, what?
It was. It's Exhibit 103 is admitted.
Okay, what's that?
And
I want to see. Who's he? Is he the deputy? Is he the brother-in-law? Hold on. I get easily distracted. Okay, who's out here?
the firefighter? What happened? She said, "Where is the ambulance? Where's the guy with the gunshot?" My brother's in the living room. With the other deputy? Yeah.
Please don't show any bodies on here. I'm gonna stop before they show body. I mean, she's crying though. She's crying. She's showing emotion in the courtroom.
Okay. But you didn't hear or see anyone else? No, what if they're here? What? What if they're here?
Hey, Karina. I don't know. Let's see if we get into Karina or not. Let's see if we get into Karina. All right, Benji. Thanks for tuning in. Let's reconvene on Tuesday. And yeah, I'm definitely watching Karina tomorrow. I do have a lot of work to do. Yeah, but I think that's the next trial that we cover because I don't see anything else unless there's, let's see, Core TV. What do they have on Core TV? Oh, they have Karina. I guess Karina is what's going
Police
on.
found 42-year-old.
I guess Karina is what's going on. Yeah, Karina. So I suppose Karina's who we watch next. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. All right. For those, let me see. Hope you guys have a safe July 4th. That is actually one. July 4th is a really deadly day. Okay. I hate being on the road around holidays because that's when people are drinking and being reckless. So you guys be safe out there. And then let's reconvene on Tuesday. I'm going to try and get my shorts out. I'm going to try and get more shorts out. And hopefully I get to keep it up. If not, at least I tried. You guys have a good weekend. I'll talk to you guys next week.